After starting university, I took up a part-time job working the night shift at a convenience store. Due to my class schedule, I primarily worked on weekend nights. It was generally a calm job, where I spent most of my time at the cash register or restocking shelves. Recently, I also began handling the store's delivery service, which increased the number of opportunities I had to deliver products outside the store at night. A few classmates worked at the same place, so there was always someone to talk to. One Friday night, after returning from a break, I started my shift. The store closes at 2 a.m. and considering cleaning and closing tasks, we usually wrap up by 1:30 a.m. That day, it was around 11:45 p.m. when I decided to start cleaning a bit early. It was just me and 2 other colleagues working that night, one of whom had just returned from an outdoor errand, and the other was about to go on break. While cleaning, the phone at the register rang. Picking up, I was greeted by an elderly woman on the other end asking if we were still open. I explained we couldn't take large orders, but basic shopping was fine. She was okay with that and listed a few items she needed, along with the delivery address. About 20 minutes later, I had the items ready, packed them in a bag and mounted my bike. The destination was about a 15-minute ride away. At one signal, the car in front of me suddenly stopped. After waiting for a while and seeing no movement, I honked lightly. The car didn't move, so I decided to bypass it, but just as I did, the car suddenly sped off. I was annoyed but chalked it up to someone playing a prank and continued on my way. However, I soon noticed that car parked by the roadside with its lights off, which gave me an uneasy feeling. Throughout the rest of the ride, I kept checking my mirrors to see if it was following me. Eventually, I turned into the long driveway of the designated address surrounded by trees. Upon reaching the destination, I parked my bike, checked the items, and rang the doorbell. After a short wait, an elderly gentleman came out and asked what I was doing there. I explained about the delivery from the convenience store and confirmed the address with him, but he said he hadn't ordered anything. I apologized and returned to my bike, figuring it was just a misunderstanding or a prank. Leaving the gentleman's driveway, I called my coworker to double-check the address. As I did, I was blinded by bright headlights coming from the opposite direction. It was so bright that I honestly couldn't tell what was happening. I braked, waiting for the car to turn off its lights or change its path, but after a while, it was clear it wasn't going to move. The road was narrow and dark, making it hard to navigate around. Eventually, I decided to wait for the other vehicle to make a move. After several quiet minutes, the car completely turned off its lights. I tried to adjust my eyes to the darkness to locate the car ahead but couldn't see it. Cautiously, I started to drive down the driveway again, wary of the car potentially coming at me again. Suddenly, I saw the car still with its lights off, parked right in the middle of the road. I realized it must have followed me without my noticing. Unable to see inside the car, I grew anxious about the possibility of malicious intent. Then the driver's door opened, and a person stepped out, walking towards me. As he approached my bike, he started waving his hand, gesturing for me to come closer. At this moment, I can't deny feeling terrified. However, trying to keep calm, I slightly approached to understand his intentions. As I did, He silently walked around my bike and eventually stopped at the rear. Trying to see what he was doing, or why he was just standing there, was difficult from my mirrors. At that moment, looking forward, the other doors of my bike opened, and 3 more individuals started sprinting towards me. My adrenaline spiked, and in a panic I quickly turned my bike around and sped off. Dodging their car and several obstacles, I managed to get back on the main road. Looking back, there were no other cars, but I could clearly see the car starting to follow me. I had thought they would only stop in a more secluded area, but a few seconds later, they turned into a side road. I went back to work and told my colleagues everything. They strongly advised me to report to the police, though I had little helpful information to provide. The police arrived, took a formal statement, and left just before the store closed. The next day, I was shocked to hear that 3 men had been arrested the previous night in the same driveway I was in, targeting another delivery person. It seems the elderly gentleman had call of police when they attempted to deliver goods he hadn't ordered. Apparently, they had been using the secluded driveway as part of a scheme to lure and attack delivery workers at night. Fortunately, while the 4th perpetrator managed to escape into the darkness, no further information on him was obtained in the following days. I could hardly believe such an incident happened to me, but I'm proud of how quickly I was able to respond and grateful for my safety. This event undoubtedly made my job more stressful, but I was able to switch to daytime shifts shortly thereafter. I sincerely hope the last escapee is caught. As long as he remains free, it's unnerving to think how many others might experience similar terrifying situations. An unprecedented cold wave had blanketed the town, and I had just finished a long day at college. On winter nights when hunger and fatigue intersect, people tend to stay indoors, making it an ideal opportunity for a food delivery driver like myself to earn income. I worked through several apps, and that night I was particularly busy with Uber Eats. Being an introvert, especially on cold nights, I prefer to avoid interacting with others, making this job a perfect fit for me. Delivering meals allowed me to bypass direct social interactions. I thought I had become accustomed to various customers and orders after a few months into the job, but that night, everything changed. Late into the night, with most deliveries done and on my way back home, a new order popped up on the Uber Eats app. It was unusual for orders to come in at this time, and the payout offered was unexpectedly high. Perhaps the severe cold kept everyone else indoors that night. The order was simple: a warm soup from a small restaurant. However, the delivery address caught my attention for being unfamiliar. I was supposed to know every corner of this town, yet this address did not ring any bells. Nevertheless, seduced by the payout, I accepted the order. As I picked up the soup from the restaurant and headed towards the specified address, the temperature dropped further, and the night became darker and quieter. Relying on my smartphone's map app, I ventured into a suburban isolated area. With few street lighted and the roads covered in snow, it was challenging to navigate, but I could feel myself getting closer to the destination. Upon arrival, I paused in front of a gate leading to an old house that seemed uninhabited at first glance. Yet, the app assured me I was in the right place. Mustering my courage, I pushed open the gate and made my way to the front door, leaving footprints in the snow. After placing the soup in front of the door and notifying the customer of the delivery, Through the app, a voice came from behind saying,
I've been waiting.
Startled, I turned around only to find the house emitting a creepy ambience, as if harboring ancient secrets, with no sign of the voice's owner. The air grew colder and my heart raced with fear. Something was off. The house, this order, this night, everything was wrong. I tried to leave quickly, but my feet felt heavy and my movement slowed. At that moment, sounds from inside the house suggested someone was about to come out. However, I lacked the courage to turn back. Overwhelmed by fear and the biting cold, I felt as if something chased me as I ran to my car. Jumping in and starting the engine, I hurried to leave the area as quickly as possible. Yet, what my car's headlights illuminated was a shadow blocking the way I had come, shaped like a human but with a face blending into the darkness. Despite my terror, I drove forward. The shadow quietly watched me pass, its gaze piercing my back. That night's events forever changed how I viewed my delivery job. Whether something sinister led me to that house or it was merely coincidence remains unknown. However, since that day, I have avoided late-night deliveries. And the memory of that night, whenever it resurfaces, brings back a chill of fear, intensifying the cold around me. As autumn deepened, I had started a new part-time job. During the day, I worked at a cafe near my university making coffee, and at night I delivered food using a delivery app. This town was small and people generally knew each other, so nighttime deliveries were usually considered quiet and safe. One night, as usual, I activated the app and took my first delivery. The destination was an old mansion on the outskirts of town. Even though I followed the app's map, the house was located in an unfamiliar remote area. Since deliveries were rare in this region, I drove there with a bit of apprehension. As I approached the house, my phone rang. It displayed an unknown number. Normally I would ignore it, but something made me answer. A raspy voice from the other side said,
"You're going the wrong way."
However, the GPS indicated the correct route, and I saw no reason to doubt its directions. Upon arrival, I was greeted by a grand iron gate that was closed. Pressing the intercom, the gate slowly opened. As I drove down the long driveway, a large mansion emerged. Yet, the surroundings were eerily quiet, and no light shone from the mansion's windows. I got out of the car, carrying the food towards the front door, which was slightly ajar, revealing a long dark hallway inside. I felt uneasy but knocked on the door. A faint sound came from inside.
"Please come in. I've left the door open for you."
A woman's voice faintly called out. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside and a dim light was visible at the end of the hallway. As I walked towards it, the source of the light was an old chandelier hanging over a large dining room. There was a long table surrounded by unoccupied chairs, and no one was there to receive the ordered meal. A chill ran through me as I placed the food on the table, and then I heard the door shut behind me. Turning around, the entrance door had slowly closed itself. At that moment, footsteps sounded from a distant room, and I realized someone was hiding in the house. I hurried towards the exit, but the door was securely locked and wouldn't budge. Driven by fear, I took out my phone again to call the police, but there was no signal. Then an unknown number called again. I answered, and the raspy voice whispered again.
You're still going the wrong way.
The voice was cold as if coming from afar. I tried to escape the mansion, but all exits were locked. The mansion was dark, growing colder, and my fear and anxiety amplified. I desperately searched the mansion, finding all windows securely shut with no way out. The only option was a door that led to the basement slightly open. I pushed the heavy door and descended the stairs. The basement was darker and filled with damp air, with only my flashlight to rely on. In the back of the basement, old furniture and boxes were piled up, and I saw something move in the shadows. I called out, but there was no response. Suddenly, a heavy hand touched my shoulder. Turning around, there stood an old woman in tattered clothes. Suppressing my fear, I asked her how to exit the mansion. She smiled and pointed to a hidden door in the back of the basement. I managed to exit through that door. As I stepped outside, the mansion's door slammed shut behind me. That night, I vowed never to deliver again. When I got home, the unknown number called once more and I hesitantly answered. From the other end, the old woman's voice said,
I'll let you escape tonight, but there won't be a next time.
I hung up and immediately blocked the number. After that night, I completely quit doing late-night food deliveries and never passed by that mansion again. This terrifying experience taught me the importance of being cautious in unfamiliar places and always staying alert to my surroundings. Every now and then, I still shudder when I remember that night.